It was $15, a steal. My wife and I had needed a cabinet for almost 3 years. We lived in a small apartment without much closet space. We had married young, and financially we were still on shaky ground. She was in school, and I was just starting my job as a copywriter for a local business. So, when we saw a cabinet on Facebook Marketplace that wasn't upwards of $700, my wife literally jumped for joy. When I went to pick it up, the guy selling it was nervous. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, and he kept biting his nails. His hair was a rat's nest, and he breathed quick, always glancing over his shoulder. I passed over the $15 cash, and he took it like a starving child grabbing a dinner roll. "Need help getting it in the car?" It was hard to understand him with his fingers in his mouth. "I got it." I bent down to lift it. The cabinet was a small thing, plain white, 3 feet square at the opening and 2 feet deep. It looked like it weighed 20 pounds, soaking wet. I put my fingers under the edge and lifted up. It wouldn't budge. I grunted in surprise and pulled harder. The thing felt like it was full of bowling balls. "Geez, is there something in here?" I opened the doors to check. Empty. The guy looked at me, his cuticles against his teeth, gnawing. He shrugged and bent down to help. It took us 3 tries just to get it in the air. When it was finally in the trunk of my used 2003 Ford Transit, the suspension in the back groaned. The car slipped down on the back tires an inch or 2. I opened up the driver's side, but the guy stopped me. "Hey!" I looked at him, 1 foot already in the car. "You got padlocks?" No, don't think so." The guy bounced on his heels. I saw the dark circles under his eyes. He was making me think I shouldn't have responded to that post so quickly. "Buy some, on your way home." "Oh, okay." I got in the van, flicked it into drive, and practically peeled out of the parking lot. The cabinet in the back made the entire car bounce each time I went over a speed bump. I saw the seller guy in my rearview mirror watching the car as it pulled out of the apartment complex lot. I couldn't be sure, but it looked like he was crying. When I got home, my wife was ecstatic. She wouldn't stop running her hands over the smooth wood and gushing about how it fit perfectly with the color of our bedroom. It took some doing to get it in the door. The son of a bitch still weighed a ton, but we made it happen. She wasted no time filling the small container with clothes, pants, and folded shirts that had been falling out of our overcrowded dresser for the past 3 months. Helping her place the stuff inside of the cabinet, I felt pretty proud of myself. I forgot all about the weird seller guy, how heavy the thing was, and all the pangs of unease I had experienced earlier. I was a good husband, and our house was a little more organized. In the chaos that was our lives, this was a victory. It was about a week before I noticed the clothes on the floor. My wife's not the most organized person. When she takes off an article of clothing, it usually travels to a few different locations before it finds a home in the laundry hamper. One of her favorite alternates is the floor. So when I found all the clothes that had been in the cabinet on the carpet of our bedroom, I didn't really think anything of it. I just put them in with the rest of the laundry, cleaned them, folded them, and put them back in the cabinet. Halfway through the next week, I saw those same clothes on the ground. I looked in the cabinet and saw it was empty. I called to my wife in the next room. "Babe, if you're gonna try stuff on in the morning, can you make sure and put it back?" She came into the bedroom and looked at the pile of clothes. "I didn't try those on. Did you push them out when you were getting your stuff?" "I don't have stuff in there. Let's just keep things organized, please." She refused to acknowledge that she was the one who put them on the ground, so I dropped the point. Didn't want it to spiral into an argument. We put the clothes back and went on with our day. That night, we left to go out on a little date. I had gotten a commendation at work for wowing a client, so we felt like celebrating. When we came back, we were a little bit drunk from the bar, so it wasn't until the next morning that I even saw what had happened in the short time we had been gone at dinner. I turned over in bed, hung over and bleary-eyed, and stared at the ground for what felt like a full minute. The clothes were on the floor again. It was Saturday, so instead of doing grocery shopping, fixing the stove, or any of the other million chores on my unending list, I started messing around with the cabinet. I checked the legs, seeing if there was a tilt that might be making the clothes spill out. No dice. I checked the floor level. The bubble floated dead center between the two black lines. I tried to think if I had accidentally bumped the doors last night while I was getting undressed. It was hard to remember. Everything was hazy through the alcohol. I remembered the guy I brought it from, how he fidgeted and swayed on the spot. "You got padlocks?" I shook my head. I was going crazy. It probably had something to do with the door and the way the clothes were stacked. Instead of putting the clothes back in, I piled them on top of the cabinet. After a day or two of the clothes not magically making their way onto the floor, I figured the problem was solved. Then the weird stuff started. I would come home from work and drawers would be open in the kitchen. I assumed it was just my wife and I forgetting to close things. Then things would start rearranging themselves all throughout the house. Books in my bookshelf would get shuffled around. I would go looking for the plates, and they would be in a different place than before. I blamed my piss-poor memory. Food started going missing. My wife would swear she didn't eat it. Sometimes I would wake up at night and not be able to go back to sleep. I know it sounds crazy, but it felt like someone was watching me somewhere in the darkness. I started to be suspicious of the cabinet. Lack of sleep inhibits brain function. You do things you wouldn't even consider if you were well rested. I examined every inch of that stupid thing. I knocked on the back, the sides, the top. I even stuck my head inside and looked around. It was a normal cabinet in every single way, other than the fact it weighed the same as a low-end NFL football player. I thought about moving it out of our bedroom, but my wife wouldn't hear it. Where else would we put the clothes? I tried to tell myself that it was nothing, that I was being paranoid. But still, I couldn't help staring at it when I was in the room. Sometimes I'd even fall asleep looking at it. The image burned onto my eyes after they had closed, its white shape working itself into my nightmares. It was getting ridiculous, so I did something a bit crazy. You know those motion-sensing cameras? I set one up in our bedroom. I ended up dropping way more money than I should have, but I was desperate. I hid it behind a picture frame so my wife wouldn't see it. It was hooked up to my phone and would send videos if it recorded anything. I would turn it on at night and examine the footage at work. For 2 days, I got nothing but clips of my wife and I turning over in our sleep. On the third morning after its installation, I got up late. I had to rush to the office. My wife was under the weather, so she was staying home from classes. I air-kissed her goodbye as I went out the door. I didn't even bother to check my phone. I saw the notifications only when I sat down at my desk. The camera had recorded 3 videos. I pressed play on the first bit of footage. As I pulled up the projects I would be working on that day, I kept my phone in the corner of my eye. The stuff I saw at first was normal. Me and my wife tossing and turning in bed. When that ended, I opened the second video file. While it played, I looked over a calendar filled with work meetings for the month. I was rescheduling an appointment with a low-priority client when I saw a flicker on my phone. All my attention left my work. I picked it up and looked deep into the small screen. In the video, the doors to the cabinet were opening. It was a slow process. They moved outward, centimeter by centimeter. Once they had fully swung out, I saw movement in the dark space inside. 2 long, spindly hands crept out of the interior. They were followed by thin arms, then a head and neck. I had never seen anything like it before. Its eyes were bulbous and glowing in the infrared. Its mouth was wide and toothy. It pulled itself out of the cabinet and crept along the floor. It was pale, fleshy, with sharp toes. It must have been 8 feet long. It reared up on its haunches, its head almost brushed the ceiling. It stared at me and my wife, sleeping peacefully. The video ended. I fumbled with my phone to get to the third video. Once I had the file up, I pressed play. The thing from the cabinet filled the screen. It was staring directly into the lens, its eyes watery and leaking. Its smile grew wider than before, and I saw its lips tear open and leak black fluid. For 10 seconds, the thing and I engaged in somewhat of a staring contest. I ran out of my chair, ditching all my stuff at my desk. I dialed my wife, ignoring coworkers who were asking where I was going. My wife's phone rang and rang. I worried I would be shunted to voicemail. I heard a click and her voice came through. It was thin and croaky from her sickness. "Honey, what? Baby, I need you to get out of the house." "What? Why? What's? Get out of the house now. Go to the store across the street. Stay there until I call you. I think there's something in our bedroom cabinet." "Honey, slow down. What's going on? You're scaring me." "Please listen to me. There's something in our bedroom cabinet. You need to get out of the house and get to the store across the street. I promise I will explain when I get home. Just pretend like nothing's wrong and leave." There was a long pause on the other end. Then, finally, "Okay. Be safe. I'll call you soon." I waited until I heard my wife hang up. Then I dialed 911. I swung myself into my car. The operator answered. 911, what's your emergency?" Something's in my house. I think it's dangerous." I tried to start my car. For a horrific moment, I heard the engine stall. On the second try, it turned over and I almost cried in relief. "Please stay calm, sir. Can you tell me exactly what is in your house?" "It was this. It's long. It has sharp. It came out of the cabinet. I think it's been coming out for weeks." Sweat was building up on my forehead. I pulled out of the parking lot with a shriek from the van's tires and sped towards home. "Is it an animal?" I don't think so. It looked like a fucked up person. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Sir, are you on any sort of medication for a mental condition? What? No! I pulled out of the parking lot and onto the road. Are you at your house now? I just saw it on camera. I'm driving home. I'm not crazy. I believe you, sir. Their tone of voice made me doubt it. Can you give me your home address? I gave it to her. I honked at someone going 20 and at 35. Anxiety made my head feel like it would explode. There was a gap in traffic, and I weaved past the slow car. I heard the suspension of the van groan in protest. Okay, we're sending an officer now. Hang tight. Click. I chucked my phone into the passenger side. The 10-minute drive home felt like 10 years. After hitting what felt like every red light, I finally saw my crappy duplex in the distance, standing there peaceful and serene, like it didn't have some terrifying abomination hidden within. I slammed into the driveway and didn't even stop to put the car in park. I sprinted up the walk. The front door was open. The house was silent. I tentatively stepped in. I guessed my wife hadn't had time to shut the door before she left. I looked around, trying to see if anything was out of place. I slipped into the garage and grabbed a few things, making as little noise as possible. Then I tiptoed into the bedroom. No one was there. The cabinet was waiting in the corner, its doors neatly closed. I approached it, doing my best not to let the objects in my arms make noise and give me away. I crouched next to a white, cube-like piece of furniture. I took a piece of wood I had gotten from a scrap project and positioned it over the top of the two doors. I took the drill I had gotten from the garage and positioned a screw. I knew once I started, I would only have a few seconds before it would hear me and try to stop what I was about to do. I held my breath and screwed in one side of the wood. It made a squealing sound like a stuck pig as it went in. It bit into the wood and was soon buried up to its head. I rummaged in my pocket for the next screw. I heard something. A sound of scratching coming from the cabinet. I didn't stop to check what it was. I took the second screw and sent it into the wood. A thump came from the cabinet, like someone was knocking on the other side of the door. I was running out of time. I went to position the other plank of wood, but the cabinet doors jumped. Something on the inside was slamming into them. I put my weight against them, readjusted the wood, and pressed against a new screw. I went in, but there was another hard hit from the inside. I saw the first plank start to splinter. I got the second screw in place, but then it was knocked askew by another hit. There were large cracks in the first plank now. It wouldn't hold a second bash. I had to get the second piece of wood in place, or whatever was inside was coming out. I pushed down on the screw and pressed in the drill's trigger. Bit by bit, it sank into the wood until finally the drill bit skidded against the top. I waited. There was another hit, but the two pieces of wood held. No cracking. A moment of silence, and then two. No more hits. I put another plank of wood on, and well as a few more screws to make sure that it would hold. Once that was done, I leaned against my bed and sighed in relief. The police would be here soon. I'd show them the cabinet, the video. I was going to be okay. I dialed my wife's number again on my phone. I was already forming the words I was going to say to her in my head. I'm on my way. We're safe. Nothing to worry about anymore. I heard her phone ring in my receiver, and then ring in the house. I stopped and turned. With each buzz, my horror grew. The ringing was coming from inside the cabinet. My wife never made it to the store. I looked all over, even in the back for her. I demanded to see the store's security cameras, which they eventually agreed to show me when I told them my wife was missing. There was no footage of her entering the establishment. When the police showed up, they didn't believe me when I told them my wife was missing. I showed them the video from the night before, and they thought it was CGI. They asked about my mental history, and that was when I shut up. They told me to come to the station to file a missing persons report, and then they would look into it. They gave me funny looks as they went back to their cars. They left, and I was alone again with the cabinet. 20 minutes later, I got a notification on my phone. It was another video from the camera. I looked up and saw it was missing from the wall. I clicked play. The video was 10 seconds long. Everything was dark, but I heard crying in the audio. It sounded like my wife. I heard one word, "Please." Then the video went dark. My wife is in there. I tried calling her again an hour ago. Her phone went straight to voicemail. I have to hope that she's alive. Whatever is in that cabinet is taunting me, dangling her like bait. I think it wants me to go in. I need to talk to that weird cellar guy again. After that, I'm getting some supplies. Then I'm heading in after her. I'm sending this post to some friends. To those who receive it, if you don't hear from me in 24 hours, show this to the police. I included links to the video files in the email I sent. I don't know if they'll believe you or not, but at least try. After you do that, burn the cabinet. I left the front door unlocked. I'll let you know if I find her in there. Wish me luck. Hey, and thanks for listening to today's Creepypasta. The author of this story is The Scared Scholar. He describes his writing style as straightforward, with a touch of the esoteric and the uncanny. You can find more of his stories on Reddit at Agoraphobic Archives, where he regularly publishes new short stories. As always, you'll find all the links down in the description. If you enjoyed the video, let me know in the comments and by giving it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for your support. Until next time.